This is not just one congressman. This is a collegial body. I even question her if this institution has the right to scrutinize the budget, and she even failed to answer. She still must be present, Madam Chair. And because she is not present, she is actually insulting the second institution that should scrutinize the budget of the Vice President. And I do not care even if she is the Vice President.
Madam Chair, under the number 8 of the observation, this is the under and over budget allocation for each satellite offices. Based on our review on the average monthly disbursement of each satellite office based on the actual expenses for CY 2023, it disclosed that the cash advances granted to the disbursement officers in the VP satellite office were not within the 2-month budget requirements as required by the Section 20, Chapter 6, Volume 1 of the GAM for NGAS. So there is an under and over 2-month budget requirements.
Madam Chair, my understanding po of this cash advance is to allow for the orderly administration of those functions of the SOs and EOs po, no? And rightly, there are guidelines with the COA that 2 months po yung ideal na meron na parang for their operating usage. Madam Chair, can the COA correct us? Based on their understanding of the nationwide needs of budgeting and auditing, are all regions equal po ba? Are all the requirements equal throughout the country? Or varying naman po siya based on demographic, based on demand? With other functions, for example, in your auditing of the DSWD, sa history po ninyo, when auditing their social services functions, equal po ba palagi ang budget ng kanilang regional offices?
Madam Chair, on my knowledge, actually, dapat po mayroong assessment on the scope or the number of beneficiaries involved, kasi kung assistance po ito, kailangan nating i-consider yung number of beneficiaries, so hindi po dapat equally.
Correct. So we should be actually considering ano po yung pangangailangan ng ating mga kababayan, ilan po yung ating mga kababayan doon, yung population center, yung how far they are from the office. Yun po ay mga aspects that we consider when setting up regional offices. That would be a fair assumption to make. Correct po, no, Mr. Chair? Madam Chair?
Madam Chair, yes po.
Yes. Madam Chair, do you find it odd that for all of these ex-satellite offices, they share an equal 2.2 million cash advance? Except, of course, for the BARM, which suspiciously only has 200,000 cash advance granted?
For this observation, the Office of the Vice President established or equally granted cash advance for 2,200,000 for each satellite office except for the BARM. So kaya po meron kaming observation na under over budget utilization, kasi for us, I think hindi dapat siya uniform. It must be consider po yung lawak ng scope or yung mga beneficiaries involved po natin para po ma-consider yung tamang amount na i-establish po natin. So as you can see in the report, there is a under over budget requirements. So meron pong mga satellite offices na sobra yung budget. At the same time, meron naman pong mga satellite offices na kulang yung budget.
Madam Chair, Parliamentary inquiry, Madam Chair. Madam Chair,
Yeah.
Parliamentary inquiry.
The Honorable Abante.
It is also a cherished tradition in Congress that whenever we deliberate the budget of a certain agency, that the head of the agency must be present. At this point in time, there are no staff here. The head of agency present on the office of the Vice President. And we only have a DBM here. A DBM even answered that only, the COA even answered that only the OVP could be able to answer that. Perhaps we could be able to say it. Kanina, sinabi rin po ni Congressman Marcoleta, is a cherished tradition to approve the budget immediately. But there's a cherished tradition that when we deliberate a budget of any agency, that the head of agency should be present. That is my parliamentary inquiry, Mr. Chair.
So, as we had explained earlier, we received a letter dated 10 September. At doon sa liham na yon, pinaliwanag ng ating Vice Presidente na sinabit na po niya lahat ng mga documents na sa tingin niya ay kakailanganin ng Kongreso sa ating pagkilatis ng kanyang budget.
Yes, Madam
And
Chair.
so, yun po
But,
ang sitwasyon natin sa ngayon. Pwede natin, pagkatapos ng ating interpellation, pwede natin desisyonan kung anong gagawin. Pero sa ngayon, ipapagpatuloy muna natin ang pagtatanong.
Madam Chair, let me
Honorable
explain.
Abante.
No? But her letter, actually, na her not being present here, is an insult to this institution. When we had the last hearing, I even questioned her if this institution has the right to scrutinize the budget, and she even failed to answer. My goodness, I think that her writing a letter to us telling us that she has completed this, she still must be present, Madam Chair. And because she is not present, she is actually insulting the second institution that should scrutinize the budget of the Vice President. And I do not care even if she is the Vice President, Madam Chair. I will not allow that Congress will be insulted by the head of any agency.
Duly noted.
But Madam Chair, whatever your decision might be, I would concede to it.
Salamat po. Please proceed.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and salamat kong Benny. Akala ko po ako yung subject ng point of inquiry ninyo. Natakot po ako doon, pero salamat po. And I share the frustration and lament that. And actually, as you can see based on my interpellation, although yes, we're able to get these questions out in the open, wala po tayong actual sagot na nakukuha, unfortunately. And this is by no fault of the COA. We appreciate your attendance here and your answering to the best of your abilities. But it's just that precisely the questions here relating to the budget of 2025, understandably, you will not be able to answer. With that, Madam Chair, I have other questions here. And supposedly at this juncture, lahat na po ito ay targeted, directed po doon sa OVP. But just to point it out po, no, going back to what the COA mentioned regarding the percentage of variance, yung over po nga ng Cebu and Bohol was 70%. As compared naman yung under for Panay and Negros Islands, 276% po. So hindi po maayos yung pag-distribute throughout the regions. It seems to be they were done equally. They were equally cut. And I think this would definitely have an effect on the operational effectiveness of yung mga satellite offices and extension offices. But anyway, I leave it to the body to decide on what to do with this. And I will now conclude my interpellation. Thank you very much, COA. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Salamat. Next to interpellate from the majority, we have the Honorable Fidel Nograles.
Thank you, Madam Chair. My question is addressed to the COA in relation to the question on the lease or rent of satellite offices. I would like to ask, based on your audit report, that you mentioned that in 2022, there was 29 million, and in 2023, there was 53 million spent on lease or rent of satellite offices or extension offices. In your audit report, do you have details on the breakdown of this 53 million spent on year 2023? If yes, can you provide our committee with information on how this 53 million on the lease of satellite offices was spent?
Madam Chair, based on the report, the rent expenses or lease expenses in CY 2023 represents the payment for the lease of office at the Robinson Cybergrid Plaza, Disaster Operations Center, and various satellite offices, satellite office locations. It also includes the lease of storage space for various files and equipment and lease of multi-copier machines. So, for your question, Madam Chair, on the exact amount or the breakdown of the 53 million, we can provide it on the later date because we have no on records on file as of this moment.
Madam Chair, on record, do you have an average of the monthly lease or the rent of these satellite offices?
For the monthly average, Madam Chair, as of now, we cannot provide the exact amount or the average because in the report we have no written or there is no breakdown on the annual or the monthly expenses for rental. But we can provide the copy once we got the documents on the office.
Thank you. Madam Chair, I would also like to ask about the salaries and wages if you have information in your audit report regarding the disbursed amount for contractual and casual employees of the satellite offices.
Based on the notes to financial statement, including in our report, there are no breakdown for the salaries and wages for the satellite offices.
Madam Chair, for my last question, I would like to ask about the financial assistance or subsidies given to political organizations or non-NGOs. Do you have information in your audit report which you can provide to our committee regarding the disbursement or the release of amounts given to political organizations or NGOs?
Madam Chair, based on the notes to financial statement in our report, the assistance to non-government organization or civil society organization for the year 2023 is amounting 582,951.48.
Madam Chair, how about for 2024? Do you have information in your audit report on the subsidy or financial assistance to NGOs?
Madam Chair, for the 2024, we have no details because the annual audit report is pertaining to the annual for CY 2023. But we can provide the details once we back in the office.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Okay. Salamat. Next is the Honorable Arlene Brosas.
Madam Chair,
But
Madam
before you
Chair.
begin,
point of order, Madam Chair.
what is your point of order? And what is the rule being violated?
I do realize the kindness of our colleagues here. And I really appreciate that kindness, Madam Chair. But we are facing a blank wall. My goodness, without the presence of any of the officers and officials of the Office of the Vice President, we are facing a blank wall here, Madam Chair. And that's my point of order, because I really appreciate the kindness of my colleagues here in this briefing. Masyado tayong naging mabait, Madam Chair. And I would think that it is time for us to realize that we should not allow any head of agency to further insult the authority of Congress to scrutinize the budget, Madam Chair. That is my point of order.
Madam Chair, very quickly, Madam Chair, yeah, if I may.
Kong Abante, I believe that was a manifestation, not a point of order. So yes, we note your manifestation, and we proceed to the Honorable Garin.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. With due courtesy to my mentor, and of course, a legislator have been here for long. We admire and we respect the context of the Honorable Abante. However, Madam Chair, I believe this issue has been deliberated for several hours already since we started. With that, Madam Chair, even with the absence of the Vice President, but with the presence of other officials here, and with members who would like to ask questions, can we please proceed with that with due courtesy to the Honorable Abante, Madam Chair? Because we also have other meetings to attend to, and we have a lot of members listed. So with that, Madam Chair, I hope that we put a period on that issue. Maraming salamat po.
Yes, and let me just, thank you, Honorable Garin, and let me just add a few more points. First is, kung naalala niyo po, nung huling hearing, yung ating representative mula sa COA, yung si Assistant Commissioner Juliano, ay wala siya masyadong naibigay na information dahil hindi naman po siya yung individual na nakakaalam nung mga tinatanong ng mga members. That's one. Pangalawa po, ang audit report for 2023 ay hindi pa po posted ng COA. So, hindi pa alam ng ating mga members, pati ng ating mga kababayan. And that's the reason for why marami pong nakalista sa ngayon. There are 14 members who wish to ask questions. So, kung sana po mamarapati natin, ay papayagan natin ang ating mga miyembro na magtanong. Kasi meron silang mga genuine na curiosity talaga dito sa budget ng OVP. So, yun lang po. Kaya, payagan na muna natin. And later on, let's decide kung anong gusto natin gawin dito sa budget ng OVP.
Madam Chair.
Yes, po.
I would accede to that, Madam Chair. But let me just explain further. No? I was asked, what if the Vice President would not come to the briefing, no? Sabi ko, that's fine. As long as other officials of the OVP that could be able to answer us concerning the budget would come, Madam Chair.
Yes.
But there's no one here.
Thank
Secondly,
you. And
Madam Chair,
we have already-
I would like to remind
We've already ruled-
our people that are listening right now, this is not just one congressman, this is a collegial body. And being a collegial body, as given the mandate by the Constitution, to brief and ask questions concerning the budget, the fact that the head of the agency is not here today is further giving an insult to the body here, and that is, I think, would be unconstitutional, Madam Chair. Yun lang po ang gusto kong sabihin. And I would accede that we should continue on. Thank you.
Salamat po. And again, continuing with the proceedings does not mean that this is an acceptable situation. Ang sinasabi lang po natin is, let us take advantage of the presence of our very hardworking members of GOA and DBM. Pagkakataon na po na malaman ang hindi natin nalalaman tungkol sa budget ng OVP. So with that, please.
Umani naman ito ng iba't ibang reaksyon mula sa ating mga netizens. Ayon kay Sagini Bara, I agree with Abante. The traditional practices didn't made it right. Pahayag naman ni Nora Figuero, she just proved the people's point on calling her spoiled brat by snubbing the budget hearing today. Not even a single representative from the OVP was present. At ito naman ang saloobin mula sa ating kababayan na si Josephine Elardogura. Tama si Cong Abante, bastos talaga yang si Sara. Bigyan niyo po ng piso ang OVP kasi maintindihan ng taong bayan yan. Mga kababayan, feel free to comment below para maglabas ng saloobin sa balitang ito.